Hello, my name is Michael Pinchera, and today I'm going to be talking about values and identity. And today we'll be looking at 10 different charts focusing on the waning and waxing conjunction, square, opposition, sextile, and trine aspects between Venus and Saturn. And I'll point out how these aspects indicate how the dynamics between Venus and Saturn define, give form, and individualize values and self-esteem, and vice versa. Now, there's more to Venus-Saturn contacts than finding the best sexual or long-term relationships with individuals who are significantly older or younger than themselves, or what the role of teacher is so significant in their lives that it may pervade the love life, or that they will need to overcome a sense of reserve or inhibition to deepen a spiritual connection with others. Now, these dynamics do exist, but life is more complex and interesting than that. Venus is how we value and relate to others, and what the qualities of that relationship are. Venus is the articulation of sympathy and antipathy on all levels in our soul life. And what we like and dislike, what we attract and repel, and what we assimilate and eliminate in our lives. Sympathy and antipathy are the soul's foundation for developing our self-esteem, values, and aesthetics. Saturn is about discerning what is most essential. On the deepest spiritual level, it is the memory, if you will, of the human archetype, discernment of what is or isn't in alignment with this higher sense of self. And on this earthly human journey that we're on, right, limits and boundaries as a containment for identity is what Saturn is about. Positive resistance, focus on higher self-intentions, and a sense of purpose. All these give rise to the actualization and concretization of what is discerned, and gives rise to discipline and steadfastness. Of course, there are the negative manifestations, right? Rigid control, restriction, fixation, focus and identification, negative resistance, setting and holding onto structures, and having inflexible boundaries. But let's look at some of the dynamics between Venus and Saturn. We have, hold on, I have to fool around with the slides here. I'm having a problem with my computer. Ah, there we go. Okay. Okay. I'm not sure. Okay, there we go. I'm seeing two different images. So here we have, I'm going to be talking about Venus conjunct Saturn. So talking about Venus conjunct Saturn, okay, we're going to be looking at how, well, just scratching the surface on a general personal level, these people hold back free expression of their feelings, especially with regard to expressions of love, right? Something so personal. They are masters of compromise, right? Duty and responsibility to their partners and other people. And it's through this dedication that they do, in fact, express their love. And often there is some form of deprivation in their childhood, which is associated with either mother or father or both. And children always do, they're always absorbing something from their parents' relationship. And in this case, it results in their own deep sense of obligation towards their friends and partner, and in their own emotional reserve. Fear of letting go, not enjoying the moment, and expressing love openly are strong impulses. The connection between Venus and Saturn is, traditionally associated with delayed marriage or loneliness, which can be, but I've seen it much more frequently in the charts of people who, partner early and or often, and who they stick to a relationship through thick and thin, like no matter what sometimes. And this exemplifies that relationships are the main road for their karmic lessons. Now, often they're lonely, even though they're partnered, or they may be, even if they may be happily insulated within their relationships that they're in. And commonly, they bend to a demanding partner, perhaps, much of their lives. There's fear associated with love, and many people with this position struggle with a lack of confidence. Rejection is a great fear. Other reasons why they might remain loyal to a challenging marriage can be a fear of, letting down family, and or what he or she feels would be a blow to their own reputation. Sometimes material concerns are connected with relationships, with this relationship of Venus and Saturn. And some stick to relationships because they give them a sense of material security. Self-sacrifice is extremely common with this position. However, even though they crave more than anything to be loved unconditionally, their conviction that they won't get the kind of love they want keeps them from really trying to find it, or unconsciously, they self-sabotage themselves. And with Venus and Saturn, there can be like a simultaneous fear of failure and fear of success that keeps people from feeling free or brave enough to go after what they truly want. They can have a somewhat detached manner, and many people with this aspect can come across as skeptical, matter of fact, even superficial on a social level. They're masters at protecting their own feelings and do whatever they can to avoid showing their vulnerabilities. And of course, this kind of defense mechanism further prevents them from finding the happiness they crave. It's so very hard for them to let down their defenses. They'll need to really know, where they stand with another person before they can feel at least somewhat safe. Negative expectations in love must be handled in order. They have to be dealt with in order to even begin working on this aspect. The good news with Saturn is that its impulse is handled better with time and maturity. There's a tendency to constantly question their own values and to be suspicious of love. And this can be transformed to be careful and objective towards relationships. And these people should make a conscious effort to evaluate their own behavior, to be objective as possible. And if they can admit to themselves that they do, in fact, want and need to be loved by a partner, they can slowly work on, dropping their defenses. For example, keeping loved ones at an arm's length and pretending that they are just fine on their own is not going to encourage intimacy, is it? So, and also jumping to negative conclusions or withdrawing emotionally when an expression of warmth is not received exactly as hoped, or we can say expected, is not going to help either. It's also a good idea to examine the choice of partners. There can be an unconscious attraction to people who love you for all the wrong reasons, for superficial or just material reasons. Maintaining, business-like love relationship can keep people with these aspects feeling safe, but unfortunately, they perpetuate their own deep feelings of loneliness and unworthiness. Intimacy does not come easily to these people, and they may appear cold or unfeeling due to emotional reserve and caution probably because of previous trauma. Due to whatever past life karma and painful relationships and separations early in the current life, they do not trust others, or not very easily anyways, and it takes a long time to take down their barriers and whatever defenses they may have. There may be a feeling of having, few caring friends or people in their lives, and the need to learn to value and love themselves, and to learn how to openly express appreciation for others. With a conjunction, especially combined with supporting aspects from other planets, these people have every opportunity to advance in their chosen careers. Also, a business sense is often strong, especially in the areas of finance and arts. Commitment, whether to a pet project or a job, a business or a person, is very characteristic. The bottom line is that how we define our identity and how we structure our lives are intrinsically connected to how we feel about ourselves, what values we hold, and what we attract and find attractive in the world. All in all, Venus-Saturn contacts show how ourselves and determine how we feel about ourselves, and of course determines what we value, and vice versa. And what we value aids in the formation of self-definition. Now, the two example charts I chose for Venus conjunct Saturn are of Bill Gates and Yoko Ono. Here's the slide of Bill Gates's chart. Now, Bill has Venus in a waning conjunction aspect to Saturn in the 20th and 22nd degrees of Scorpio, respectively. His sense of self and the set of values that he brought from past lives and developed during this life are completing a particular journey in relation to how he has defined himself. And these dynamics are experienced very personally and instinctively taken as realities, first house, and he's being called to transform these into values based on cosmic truths of what a human being is, Saturn. However, fears of loss of security and control, Saturn and Scorpio, holding on to his personal experience of what is important, Venus and Scorpio, and how he projects this to the world are the reasons for the need for transformation. His powerful positive sense of purposefulness gives reason and structure for practical actions, while his self-centeredness and narrow vision is expressed defensively. The karmic question he faces is to what degree his Saturnian definitions are softened by Venusian values and love, or whether his values continue to be shaped by his rigid materialistic definitions of the world and himself. As an additional side tone, he and Melinda announced their divorce when Uranus in Taurus, ruled by Venus, which is ruled by Venus, right, was in opposition to his sun and coming into opposition to his Venus-Saturn conjunction. Now, looking at Yoko Ono's chart, her Venus is in a waxing conjunction aspect to Saturn in the 14th and 10th degrees of Aquarius, respectively. Her sense of self, expressed through her particular aesthetics, have started towards a new evolutionary purpose. She expresses herself in a unique, instinctual, or unchecked way, in contradistinction to social norms, of course. And out of the ordinary as she is, Saturn in Aquarius, she is highly practical about her values. She has shown the ability to control and order events in such a way that much of value comes back to her and is given to others. An example of this is like her arranging the relationship between her husband, John, and their secretary. And most positively, her love leads her to a sense of purpose, which is expressed dramatically and in ways many consider to be odd or just egotistic. As challenging as many perceive her and her art, she herself is quite at ease and enjoys what she does. Now here I'm going to be talking about Venus square or opposition Saturn. Giving and receiving love are usually not flowing and natural for people born with Venus in hard aspects of Saturn. Blockages are experienced, and love relationships may be a source of frustration until these people learn to love themselves and to feel worthy of love from others. Duty is often associated with love, and some might find themselves stuck in a loveless marriage, for example. Especially in youth, these people might feel awkward in some social situations, unsure of how to express themselves or express affections, and they're very fearful of rejection. Problematic Saturn positions often get better with age, experience, and practice. However, in its more negative expression, some people with this position learn to even scheme in order to get what they want from a partner, or they might treat partnerships as if they were businesses or tools to an end, which is usually about controlling or being controlled. Yeah. These aspects can make one especially sensitive to cues that suggest they're not loved or they are rejected in some way. People with Venus and Saturn in so-called hard aspects often expect rejection in issues of love and care, whether they are conscious of this tendency or not. This often leads to negative situations in relationships, a sense of bad timing or the feeling of having bad luck in relationships. People with Venus in hard aspect to Saturn might either downplay their physical appearance or even pay excessive or a lot of attention to it. Self-consciousness with adornments is not uncommon. Often people with this position sell themselves short. They're not risk takers. When it comes to relationships, especially, they often choose a path that they feel is safe, even if it is an uncomfortable one. On another level, fear of giving can also express itself through being tight-fisted with money, okay, just as it is with their own emotions. The key to handling these aspects is to learn to, loosen up and relax. One may be oversensitive to rejection, so there's a need to, to endeavor to gain objectivity when feeling love is not being satisfactorily returned. There could be, expectations and a feeling of heaviness in relationships. Perhaps taking love more seriously than others, or specifically a partner. And that's getting in the way of accepting love and affection for themselves. Venus-Saturn people may have deep-seated feelings of being unworthy of love, even if they are able to rationalize and decide otherwise. Venus square or in opposition to Saturn finds it difficult to enjoy oneself in a lighthearted, open, and playful way, or doing something, purely for pleasure. They tend to be, close-fisted and miserly with emotions and money, right, as I mentioned, and perhaps due to painful separations in early life, one can be very cautious about becoming close to people and sharing their feelings. And even though there's a craving for love and affection, intimacy is difficult. And people with these aspects may become romantically involved with others who do not value or treat them well. They especially need to learn to love and value themselves before they find happiness, right, in their own love relationships. The two example charts that I chose for Venus square Saturn are for Charles Manson and Julia Child. And here we have a chart of Charles Manson. His Venus is in the 19th degree of Scorpio, in waning square aspect to Saturn in the 22nd degree of Aquarius. And this crisis in consciousness is focused on what Charles had perceived and learned about society, and how he was polarized in his experience of being a social being. In this case, I need to point out that the ruler of Aquarius, Uranus, is in Aries, in the 12th house, and in square aspect to Scorpio's ruler, Pluto, which is in Cancer and in opposition to the moon, which is, Cancer's ruler, and it's also in Aquarius. This Uranus-Pluto waning square shows his fear of a future that was threatening to his sense of security and well-being and undermined his identity. His past life habitual way of maintaining security, South Node, was connected to an aggrandizement of self-identity, Leo, squaring Jupiter in Scorpio, which squares the Aquarian moon and North Node, which then, magnified the intensity of his erratic, Aquarian erratic perceptions of self and society, which his sense of self and identity relied upon. These overarching elements became the basis of his calculating ways of controlling others and his unstable and sudden compulsions. The next chart is Julia Child's, and her Venus is in the 5th degree of Virgo, in waxing square to her Saturn in the 4th degree of Gemini. She came into this last life to establish and internalize her values and self-value in new ways she had previously defined for herself in the face of social restrictions and definitions. Her adjustment through discriminating, Virgo, to do something she loved to do, cooking, right, with a certain traditional flair. Venus in Virgo, fourth house. Her moon in Libra, the fifth house. She created a basis for herself by learning and making new associations for the purpose of sharing, Gemini, sharing French cooking to the American public and beyond, which led to personal security. What she broke away from were discriminations toward her being a woman, right? And especially then training as a chef, and as one having her own television show later, and from attitudes that Americans can't cook French food. And this is all these restrictions are shown by Saturn in Gemini in the 12th house. And this tension with societal norms of the time was necessary for her to actualize and establish herself so that she could move on in her evolutionary journey. The two example charts for Venus opposition to Saturn are Luciano Pavarotti and Jimi Hendrix. Pavarotti's Venus in the 10th degree of Virgo is in a waning opposition to his 5th degree in Pisces Saturn. Now, it's easy to see Pavarotti's personality and life work as an expression of the traditional Venusian qualities of harmony, beauty, art, and affection. And much of the world was attracted to him as he reached out to others with his sense of aesthetics and ideals. Venus was in his first house with the Leo ascendant. Its ruler's sun was in Libra, ruled by Venus, thus giving a strong Venusian purpose to project out into the world. The waning opposition to Saturn produces the evolutionary purpose to objectify what was defined by Saturn out into the world. Saturn in the 7th house shows the arena in which he magnanimously relates to others, which magnifies his Venusian impulse. And Saturn being in Pisces gave him a humanitarian intention, as shown by his charity work. Pisces' mutability also showed when he was younger, in that he first wanted to be a farmer, then a football goalkeeper, and then an elementary school teacher. And these experiences helped give him the sensitivity to be able to deeply relate to people in general, as he matured. And it wasn't until his first lunar nodal return that he began his serious study of music. The nodal cycle being the rhythm of pre-earthly soul intentions coming into consciousness and incarnation. Yeah. And so now I'll show you the slide of Jimi Hendrix. Now he has a waxing opposition between Venus in the 8th degree of Sagittarius and Saturn in the 10th degree of Gemini. And they're in the 12th and 6th houses, respectively. His Venus is conjunct the sun, giving strength and purpose to this equation. And his source of will and purpose was expressed through music. Love and harmony were prominent qualities that he expressed in his deeper perspectives on life. His Sagittarian abstract mind kept freedom idealized, not only for himself, but for all people. And this was intensified by bringing in the 12th house Piscean universal expression to his ideas. Some of his ideas and lyrics were highly imaginative, coming from unconscious and spacey depths. His Saturnian principle towards the definition of self was mainly inwardly focused, it's retrograde, and gave him both an inner security on one level and even strength, yet he had weak defenses against the outer world. Saturn gave Hendrix the persistent focus on playing the guitar. And even as a child, he played on a broomstick. He just wanted to play guitar so much. Saturn is conjunct to Uranus, and this gave him the ability to give his imaginations a distinctly unique expression as a musical artist. The combination of Sun, Venus, Uranus, and Saturn was expressed as an attractive, even beautiful, freedom-loving individual who projected himself in a calm manner. So now I'm going to move on to talking about Venus sextile or trine and trine Saturn. Now, people with harmonious aspects between Venus and Saturn in their birth charts have a good sense of what is expected of them in personal relationships, and quite naturally do right by others, generally speaking. Cautious in love, they are, but they're careful of what they give or promise to give, as they generally feel obligated to follow through. They don't take connections with others very lightly, and are more attracted to long-term committed partnerships rather than casual relationships. And of course, this varies according to individuals. And they usually don't expect too much from others and take relationship problems in stride. They have an intuitive understanding that there's always some bad with any good. And it's not easy to sweep them off their feet. They're unlikely to show affection on someone unless they're certain the person will return the favor, so to speak. They're not risk takers with their hearts. A similar attitude towards money is common as well. They're generally practical, very cautious. The trine aspect is the more dynamic of the two harmonious aspects. Those with a sextile can call upon these traits when needed. And those with the trine between Venus and Saturn have the traits of the aspect, already incorporated into their personalities, expressing them naturally and consistently. So those with Venus sextile Saturn have a knack for handling pressures, stresses, and challenges of relationships. They take relationship problems in stride, knowing full well that they are part of life, taking the bad with the good. They can be the solid rock with the people they love. They tend to learn from the mistakes they make in relationships. And they don't run away when a problem presents itself. They have a sense to know how to make relationships last. Loyalty, fidelity, security are very important to them. Their tastes are simple, usually, and maybe even austere or Zen-like, and they do not appreciate frivolity. Okay, they're more interested in someone's character and inner qualities far more than their appearance. Casual or superficial relationships don't interest them at all, for they're keenly aware that love gets deeper, richer, and more satisfying over time. Their sense of duty makes them stable in difficult situations. Faithful completion of duties, brings spiritual contentment into their lives, and they take pride in relationships that withstand the test of time. Venus sextile Saturn has the ability to be disciplined in their efforts toward the crafting and cultivation of values and aesthetics in real, tangible forms. Their passion about a vision to create something beautiful motivates them toward manifesting it, seeking and finding the needed resources. This internal motivation then supports finding a career path that is pleasurable. And these people have a need to creatively express themselves in their work in some way. Otherwise, they feel stagnant and will end up, losing the needed motivation. They're able to successfully evolve a vocational path by listening to their feelings and desires. And rather than becoming fixated on one chosen path, they're at their best when they allow their inner desires to determine and give life to their goals and priorities. And they remain engaged in work that brings joy. Their capacity to form supportive relationships enable them to succeed in times of transition from one job to another. The two charts I chose for Venus sextile Saturn are those of two actors, Cillian Murphy and Hugo Weaving. Cillian Murphy, his Venus is just 29 minutes from forming an exact waning sextile to Saturn, and his Venus is in the 29th degree of Taurus in waning sextile aspect to Saturn in the 29th degree of Cancer. And this, which intensifies, 29th degree intensifies the significance of this relationship. The two planets are in the 5th and 7th houses, respectively. And this dynamic shows that self-worth in relation to self-definition is given power to actualize their role in life through the productive use of new forms of consciousness, evolutionarily speaking. Cillian decided early at age 18 to be an actor. He had a strong impulse to be expressive in all the ways he was creative, 5th house. Even though he had been in a rock band and enjoyed playing rock, he was practical, Taurus, when he decided to not do both acting and playing in a rock band at the same time, thinking that it would water down his chances of being recognized as a serious actor. He still plays music with friends. He also shows his serious and practical approach to life, Saturn, Venus, by not giving too many interviews, staying out of the limelight, and not wanting to ever get over his own personal challenge of feeling uncomfortable, walking the red carpet, as actors often have to do. He has put his Saturn in Cancer identity with Venus in Taurus values into action when he campaigned for the homeless, became a patron of the UNESCO Child and Family Research Center, and other family-related associations. And he supported protesting workers at a factory. The next slide is of Hugo Weaving. Hugo Weaving's Venus at 23:52 minutes of Pisces, and is 5 degrees, 53 minutes, waxing after an exact sextile to Saturn in Capricorn. The birth time is not known, but this doesn't significantly change these positions, except for the houses. When looking up examples of Venus waxing sextile to Saturn, I found it very interesting that so many actors and actresses had Venus waning to Saturn. I need to research that more. Hugo's strength of feelings and emotional awareness, Venus and Pisces, are given form and control, Saturn and Capricorn. Venus is in a waxing sesquiquadrate relationship to its ruler, retrograde Neptune. And this gives him the ability to dissolve his personality to the degree that he can willfully express himself in creative ways as he adjusts to taking on different characters. His Venus-Saturn waxing sextile is expressed in his statement that he made. I think films have a limited ability to change the world, but that doesn't mean you stop trying. You do what's right for you. Make the films you believe in. Talk about the issues you believe in. The bigger the risk, the more chance you're going to be crucified, but you have to execute your beliefs in any way you can. In the end, referring to the movie Cloud Atlas, in which he played 6 roles, has something to say about love and hope and believing in something. Yet the movie wants to tell us that individual choice can come to mean something universal. So now moving on to Venus trine Saturn. Venus trine Saturn gives a talent for shaping the structures of life in a way that enables the expression of one's creativity and aesthetics. And even more so than the sextile, those with this aspect are at their best when they follow their heartfelt desires. Once they discover their art, their craft or vocation or whatever role brings them pleasure and captures their interest, they devote themselves to putting in the necessary time and effort to succeed in achieving their goals. They're natural leaders and are able to work well with others and to effectively delegate responsibilities as part of part of team dynamics. Of course, this depends on other elements in their chart. They tend to integrate unique personal style into their lives, such as their dress or the way they even decorate their homes, or create a recognizable branding, as you'll see, especially in one of my examples. These people feel strongly responsible to the ones they love, which feels like a second nature to them. Generally, they exercise caution and good judgment in their relationships and are understanding when others are in need. They pride themselves on being responsible and trustworthy and do whatever they can to compromise whenever it's necessary. Of course, this depends on other soul dynamics. In romantic matters, they tend to not rush headlong into affairs of the heart. They check out each potential partner carefully, assessing their good and bad qualities. Most importantly, they require that a partnership contains mutual respect and loyalty. They tend to feel more comfortable in a stable, long-term relationship. It is so natural to them to be responsible and concerned about the person they love that they are completely surprised when they encounter people who aren't the same way, or those who take relationships lightly. And this can be a source for trauma and strong defensiveness. Generally speaking, they're good parents, benevolent disciplinarians, and they expect their children, to learn to respect others and be conscious of the needs of others, and they provide good examples for this as parents, instead of trying to mold the child into being a carbon copy of themselves. They encourage their children to develop their own individuality. They themselves are disciplined or disposed, and it's kind of natural for them to be disciplined and effectively focus their efforts to achieve success. As they are capable of climbing their way up to the top of their own ladder, whatever it might be, they will not hesitate to offer a hand up to others. And this quality of being sensitive to the needs of others is one of the main reasons for their success. To illustrate these dynamics of Venus trine Saturn, I chose the charts of Lucille Ball and David Oyelowo. And his Venus, is in the 22nd degree of Pisces and is in waning trine to Saturn in the 27th degree of Cancer. Now he's reached an end of a particular evolutionary cycle of Venusian impulses, Pisces, and that he is experiencing are manifesting in his expanding out into the world and his overall development of his new life. His values and sensitivity are a result of experiences in relationships accrued over time and are given to the world, ninth house, by giving the developed values over to Saturn, to which it is in a waning trine aspect. His parents were from Nigeria. He was born in Oxford, England. He was brought up in London as a Baptist. At age 6, he and his family moved back to Nigeria, and where he went to a military, style school until he was 14. Then the family moved back to London. His particular synthesis of value and identity is focused on the individualizing of these values by giving them a structured and disciplined expression to the world, and making them, most personal and sensitively caring, Cancer. And a willful and purposeful intensification of personal expression, first house, Mars in Cancer, also in Cancer. It was a teacher, Saturn, who suggested that David should become an actor. David's values are strongly shaped by his being a devout Christian, and that he surrenders his values to a higher source, Pisces. And he has said that he believes God called him to play Reverend Martin Luther King in the film Selma. He also said that I always knew that in order to play Dr. King, I had to have God flow through me, because when you see Dr. King giving those speeches, you see that he is moving in his anointing. To illustrate this point further, when he was working in the film Selma, he and his wife became naturalized US citizens, because he felt that, he said something along the lines, I've lived here for nearly 10 years now, and to be walking around doing a film about voting rights and telling people to vote, and you can't vote yourself, is a little hypocritical. I decided it's time to do it, and no time better than now. A few years before, his Venus-Saturn connection showed itself when he addressed the fact that he was born as an Aboma, or a prince of the kingdom of Awe, Nigeria. But he said that it was useful for getting dates, but probably not much else. Another facet of this trine manifested in his nominations and awards for acting over the years, including the Order of the British Empire, the OBE, for services to drama. So now I'm going to turn to Lucille Ball, and she has Venus at 23 degrees 51 minutes Virgo, in a waxing trine to Saturn at 19 degrees 35 minutes Taurus. Her Venus, like David's, is in the ninth house. However, unlike David's dynamics of a Venus in a mutable sign, bringing itself to Saturn in a cardinal sign, Lucille's Venus is in a mutable sign in relation to Saturn in the fixed sign of Taurus, which Venus rules. Evolutionarily, this particular waxing trine makes it easy and natural for creative actualization of what she has developed as her identity, which she was consciously aware of and in control of. The evolutionary purpose of Venus waxing square to Pluto was gained through creative tension of moving forward with a new form of self-value and aesthetics. She often had to fight for her presence in her role as an actress and later as a producer because of her gender. Bringing her personal expression out into the world made it easy for her to also break free from fixed social mores at the time. When she was pregnant with her second child, Desi Arnaz Jr., she wanted to have her pregnancy to be part of her show, I Love Lucy. Now, the problem was at that time, it was demanded that pregnant women should not be shown on TV, nor could the word pregnant be spoken on air. Having a necessary and planned cesarean was scheduled for the same day that her television character gave birth. The official title of the episode was Lucy is enceinte, or enceinte, French for pregnant. Episode titles were never shown on air, though. The episode aired, and 44 million viewers watched Lucy Ricardo welcome little Ricky to the world. The upholding of the staunch 1950s values, Taurus, of family togetherness of the Ricardo family, along with Lucy's popularity, because she was a character to be identified with, became the avenue to be able to break through societal barriers. Mars conjunct Saturn gave a particular strength and tenacity in getting things done, and that she spoke her mind. It also brings intensification to her Venus-Pluto contact and indicates the tumultuous relationship she had with Desi Arnaz. Besides the numerous awards she received for her acting, she was posthumously awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom from George H.W. Bush in 1989. And the Women's International Center's Living Legacy Award. There's even a postal stamp in her honor, and was inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame. And these were for her contributions to the women's movement in 2001. So I'm hoping that these examples have illustrated the various expressions of Venus and Saturn, their dynamics, and how we relate internally and externally, and how we maintain self and other through the differentiation of sympathy and the distinction of antipathy. So thank you very much for watching, taking part, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, thank you.